2021 regular board meeting of May 13th, 2024. Would everyone please stand, and together we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to go ahead and introduce our participants for this afternoon, and starting at my far right is Ms. Marianne Southwick, Clerk of the Board, Dr. Sean Hawker, Superintendent, Ms. Leslie Bierke, Vice Chair, Ms. Heather Tenbrink, Board Member, Ms. Allie Anderton, Board Member, Mr. Jimmy McAndrew, Board Member, and I'm Rebecca Smith, Board Chair. Public comment on district-related items is scheduled near the start of the meeting. Please sign up at the sheet provided at the entrance in the back. Comments may also be submitted to the board via email at trustees@cdaschools.org or in writing through the clerk. We've received numerous public comment recently, and so I want to just thank the community for that. All right, is there a motion today to go ahead and accept today's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, agenda is approved. We're going to go ahead and start then today celebrating our Teachers of the Month.
All right. So in April, our Teacher of the Month at the high school level was Donnell Doring. He teaches U.S. History, Government, and Economics at Fincher Academy. His principal says he is one of the kindest and most supportive educators with whom I have ever worked. He makes it clear to every student that they matter and that their thinking and learning is important. Donnell goes above and beyond to help seniors prepare for life beyond high school. He reaches out to mentors and helps students connect with an adult in the community that can help them further their career plans. He has played a major role in helping students learn about and apply for Idaho Launch, along with other grant and scholarship opportunities. At the middle school level, our Teacher of the Month is Allie Smith. She's 7th and 8th grade ELA and Resource ELA teacher at Lakes Middle School. Her principal says Mrs. Smith is an inspiring teacher. She is a master collaborator, a go-with-the-flow personality, an achiever, and an advocate for all students at Lakes. Mrs. Smith is organized, personable, flexible, and absolutely loves this middle school. She is resourceful and creative with interventions for her students. She works so hard behind the scenes at Lakes Middle School. She's humble, appreciative of others, and makes a tremendous impact in our school district. At the elementary level for the month of April, the Teacher of the Month was Diane Pelton. She's a PE teacher at Northwest Expedition Academy. Her principal says since joining NEXA in 2022, Diane has procured multiple grants to provide unique and engaging PE learning opportunities for students. This includes new equipment for all students and specific equipment to be more inclusive of students with unique needs. Diane has also brought a Lit Fit program to our kinder and first grade students. Weekly, with the help of fifth grade students, Diane facilitates stations that integrate letter sounds and names, number sense, and fitness. It's an intervention that's educational, full of movement, and really just fun. We are grateful Diane brought her years of teaching experience and dedication to fostering healthy, happy kids at NEXA. And then additionally, for the month of April, we had another elementary Teacher of the Month from Hayden Meadows Elementary. Marilyn Griffiths is a music teacher at Hayden Meadows. Her principal says Marilyn goes above and beyond to engage students and the community in the music program. Her grade level concerts include not only music, but also interpretive dance, student readings, musical instruments of all kinds, costumes, and props. She has included community members to enrich the programs. Marilyn also provides guitar, drum, ukulele, and special chorus classes before and after school. She goes above and beyond any music teacher that I have ever worked with in my career. She also mentors new teachers to the profession and is a leader amongst her colleagues. And Marilyn will be retiring this year after 20 years with our school district. And then we also are proud to announce our Rookie Elementary Teacher of the Year. It's Rebecca Watts. She's a 4th grade teacher at NEXA. And here are some of the reasons she was selected. Rebecca builds positive relationships with students, believing the mantra, students don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. She thoroughly teaches students procedures and routines, incorporates class jobs so students can take ownership of their classroom, loves on them by being intentional and listening to what they have to say, meets them where they are emotionally and academically, acknowledges their feelings, and builds them up with praise and encouragement. She has high academic expectations for students, which enables them to rise to these high expectations, using progress monitoring data to guide instruction and create collaborative work groups. She takes the time to learn every student's preferred learning style and incorporates the arts and project-based learning into her teaching. So congratulations to all of those teachers. We're glad to have you in our district. And then additionally, we just had a couple other recognitions that came out earlier this month from U.S. News and World Report. For the year of 2024, they ranked Coeur d'Alene High School as the 16th high school in the state of Idaho, and Lake City High School as the 29th high school in the state of Idaho. This was out of 159 high schools in the state. So we're super proud of all of our students and all of our staff, and congratulations on that as well.
Terrific, thank you. We now have student body reports, and so Coeur d'Alene High School, we'll see a video and an update from them.
Good evening, esteemed board chair, honorable trustees, Superintendent Hawker, district administration, and valued community members. My name is Payne Kahn, and I'm the ASB president of Coeur d'Alene High School. With me, I have the ASB vice president, Kyle Rollinger, ASB secretary, Annika Hain, and ASB treasurer, Lila Bailey. The ASB spirit leader, Bryce Miller, cannot be with us tonight. On April 10th, the juniors took the SAT and the results are coming back. We have not received any statistics, but it's sounding great. On April 13th, we hosted prom at the Red Lion Hotel. The event was a great success despite being at a new venue. Red Lion was great to work with, and we can't thank them enough for helping with such a smooth event. On April 22nd and 23rd, we hosted Mother-Daughter Tea and Father-Son Barbecue. Both events were amazing, and our sophomore class representatives crushed Mother-Daughter Tea, and our freshmen hosted a great first event being Father-Son Barbecue. Last week on May 2nd, we hosted 8th grade parent night. It was amazing to see so many involved kids get excited about their upcoming year. We can't wait to have them join the Viking family. Finally, Coeur d'Alene High School has been recognized by U.S. News and World Report as the best high school in both the state and the nation for a fourth consecutive year. Now I'll pass it off to Kyle to talk about some exciting things coming up.
Last Friday, we had the Student Council Banquet, where we recognized the success our CHS Student Council has had throughout the year. This week, there's the campaign week for next year's Student Council. There are a lot of posters in the hallways, and there's great participation from all the candidates. In addition, Teacher Appreciation Week is happening. We have posters hung around the school to thank our teachers for all their hard work. We put donuts and muffins in the teachers' lounge for them to enjoy. The next 2 weeks, there's AP testing going on at CHS, where we are very excited to see how our Scholarly Vikings do on their tests. Finally, CHS softball and baseball are starting their postseason play, and Coeur d'Alene is hosting the 4A softball tournament.
On this upcoming Wednesday, May 15th, we have the Senior Sunset Dance on a cruise boat on Coeur d'Alene Lake. We have seen lots of student interest in this event, and we're excited to see the feedback about this different new approach of a cruise. The following week, seniors are going to show off all their hard work through their senior projects. Then, on the 23rd, we will have Midgers DHS. This is a senior boys pageant, and it is a loved event every year. The theme this year is Ken's World, and the senior girls are excited to show all they worked on. On the topic of seniors, on the 29th, we have senior awards, and for the last event of May, we have our Spring Swing Dance. This is the second year of this dance, and we are interested to see the turnout compared to last year. The freshmen are currently planning this event, and it will be held on the 31st at the tennis courts. We also recently had a school lockdown drill, and it was very successful.
June also brings finals for students as well. Seniors take theirs on the 4th and 5th, and underclassmen have theirs on the 6th and 7th. Also on June 7th, we have the Class of 2024 graduation ceremony, as well as their overnighter. We also have some school shout-outs, as Ms. Dinkinzu led her own independent project labeled the Yellowstone Project, which has allowed students to study at Yellowstone National Park. In addition, Ms. Haas's CHS Artemis Rhodes team, labeled the NASA Club, recently finished first place at a competition at Central Washington University. Lastly, our school's production of Mamma Mia recently finished. It saw wild success and spanned over 2 weeks with a total of 7 show nights. is enjoyed by the entire school community.
We want to thank you and the board, as well as the teachers and the community members, for the continued support as we wrap up the 2023 to 2024 school year. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you, CHS. And next up, we have a report from KTECH.
How many times a year do you get asked, do you want to drive a giant excavator or a giant logging truck or a concrete pour that's the size of the entire school?
We invite Region 1 high schools to our event every year. And in that, we also have a variety of hands-on experiences for Region 1 students that are industry related. And that way they can get a taste of what it would be like in the day in the life of a construction worker or a welder or somebody that might be working with Vista or Kootenai Electric.
Sarah Cottam with Associated Builders and Contractors emphasizes the significance of soft skills and the value they hold in today's job market.
Okay, so something that contractors look for when they're wanting to meet with kids is, are they engaged? Are they engaged in the conversation? Are they making eye contact? Are they giving an appropriate handshake? So also even down to the tone of their voice. Some of the soft skills that you wouldn't think are valuable are probably the most valuable things that someone can bring, that a student can bring to a business.
Shannon Talbot, Marketing Communications Director, highlights the unparalleled opportunities KTECH offers, giving students a taste of various industries and preparing them for the workforce.
The nice thing about KTECH is that it gives you a chance to find out what you care about. You actually get to get hands-on and try new things and try some of the things that construction has to offer and some other industries have to offer. But we just want you to want it. If you want to be here, if you want to be in construction, if you want to make a really, really great wage, then we want you.
To help bring awareness of KTECH and what they have to offer, we are finishing our second year hosting 600 8th grade Coeur d'Alene School District students at KTECH. This is a great opportunity for these students to see what career exploration paths they can choose in high school. When they visit KTECH, students visit all of the programs offered on the main campus. We have student ambassadors who take groups of 30 to 50 students to each program, and our instructors explain what they could learn at KTECH. We also incorporate into the tour time with Mr. White, our director.
We host this event to bring industry and out to KTECH and to the Parker Center to kind of give an idea of all the different trades and industry programs that are offered, and also what the Parker Center offers and what KTECH has to offer.
For high school students looking to explore career options beyond college, events like hot dogs, hammers, and hard hats, and KTECH tours offer invaluable insights and experiences, paving the way for a successful future in various industries.
That's awesome. Thanks, KTECH. And this evening we have Lake City High School.
Good afternoon. My name is Luke Sharon. I'm Lake City's Student Body President. Today, I'm joined by my ASB Treasurer, Nathan Edmonds, our ASB Vice President, Ashley Kearns, and our Comic Relief, Bradley. Unfortunately, they are not able to be with us today, but Bradley wanted to make sure that he apologizes for not being able to be here today because Bradley is currently at rehearsal for the production of Silent But Deadly, which we'll get back to in just a little bit. I want to start off by thanking Superintendent Dr. Hawker, Clerk of the Board, Marianne Southwick, Honorable Trustees, and Board Chair for inviting us today to give you all a report of what's going on at Lake City. First off, we had prom on May 4th, which went amazing. It was a wonderful time. The theme was Rapunzel, Tangled, and the excellent prom was hosted at Hagedon Event Center, which we were very proud to do again this year. With an Italian dinner, 2 photo booths, a dance floor, and a beautiful venue, it was a night to remember. At the end of the night, Mikey Heichman and Maddie Cook were crowned king and queen of the 2024 LCHS prom. As I mentioned, Silent but Deadly, the play, which I'm proud to direct at Lake City, is having its opening night this Thursday, and it will run from May 16th to the 18th, then May 24th and 25th, with 2 shows on the 25th. It's a comedy, and I would be very grateful if everyone in the public and the school board were to come to that show. I'd also like to touch upon AP test. We are currently finishing up our AP testing at Lake City, with today's test including AP Calculus. Very fun for some seniors and juniors today. In the last few days, we've also had tests like AP Government, AP European History, AP US History, and AP Statistics, just to name a few. Additionally, I'd also like to talk about our new ASB, our 2024-2025 school year officers. Our ASB president for next year is Rowan Lair. Our vice president for next year is Logan Anderson. Our secretary is Tessa Peterson, and our incoming ASB treasurer is Cooper Yate. These excellent and qualified students will be sworn in officially as soon as the school year ends, and then they will start giving these school board reports as well. Let me continue. Our spring sports seasons are coming to a close and had exciting matchups at their respective districts' events this last week. Our softball team played season 15-9. Our baseball team placed first in Caldwell this weekend. Our tennis teams are taking 2 individuals, Maddie Nesbitt and Lincoln Stowell, to compete at state this weekend as well. The track and field team will have 14 competitors in their respective events competing at state this week. In Boise, we are excited to support all of our Lake City athletes as their seasons come to a close. Now, here's Nathan to finish us out.
Hi, everybody. We still have 4 people's worth of information and only 2 of us, so bear with us. Try not to get too bored of our voices. So we just have a few more updates on our recent events. The jazz band and choir students traveled down to the University of Idaho to participate in the annual Lionel Hampton Jazz Festival and gain helpful feedback for college students and professionals alike. Sydney Jacobson earned a $1,500 scholarship to the University of Washington for her winning vocal performance. We recently had several teams sign up to compete in our Spike and Stuff tournament, a fun volleyball competition held at the school. Of the teams that competed, the Sassy Setters walked away with the brand new trophy, while the Empire Spikes Back was this year's consolation champs. At the end of this month, we have another fun competition coming up, the 3rd annual dodgeball tournament. We're looking forward to hosting this fun event for another year, with proud sponsors like STCU helping us round out the school year. Another fun activity coming up on May 28th is Senior Paint Night, where our seniors are more than welcome to invite their parents and guardians to spend the night with them enjoying a guided paint session. This event is sure to bring lots of laughs and smiles to the end of the year. Additionally, our Outdoor Studies program recently took a group of independent study students down to Yellowstone in conjunction with CHS, where they got to tour the park and research for whichever project topic they had selected. They had a great time in an amazing place. Unfortunately, despite a lot of hard work and hilarious jokes, our improv team did not win the match for the masks against Post Falls. Lake City Blue Room Improv will get them back next year. We're also happy to mention that our annual strobe dance was a success, helping with some last-minute fundraising before the prom. Last but definitely not least, graduation is less than a month away. We seniors are very excited about it, and I know that our admin and our counselors are working hard to get us all across that stage. Just this morning, we had a senior meeting where we went over how the day of the ceremony will look, as well as pick up our honors cords and stoles to go with our gowns. We're in the home stretch now, with just our EOCAs and senior projects standing between us and our diplomas. Now here's Luke to close us out.
Alrighty, thank you, Nathan. This is going to be one of the last times you see us two prior to graduation, and I really can't reiterate enough how impactful it has been to the 4 of us, Ashley and Bradley included, to give these reports monthly. Through SAG and these reports, I've been able to develop my speaking skills, but also grow relationships with district leaders, which has been extremely impactful. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, and roll Wolves. There you go.
Thank you both, and congratulations on your upcoming graduation. Next, we'll hear from our SAG representatives.
All right. Oh, here we go. Good evening, Dr. Hawker, Board Chair, esteemed trustees, and Ms. Southwick. My name is Maddie Gilmore, and I'm a Student Advisory Group representative from Lake City High School. On April 15th, we had our high school SAG meeting at Coeur d'Alene High School. Our goal for the meeting was to work with the district's technology department to update the Chromebooks landing page to make it more student-friendly and useful. We were lucky enough to have Ms. Cade and Mr. Kirkbride join us and show us the potential of changing Clever as our resource page and how it could be changed for both main high schools to fit the needs of students.
Hello, my name is Anna Paulus. I'm also a SAG representative for Lake City High School. All of the representatives in attendance were able to brainstorm link ideas for the new landing page, and we spoke with both building principals and have already launched the page.
It's really exciting to see how we were able to work with the district technology department and get something accomplished so quickly. Our last SAG meeting with the entire SAG group is this Thursday, and we are planning on brainstorming how to suggest email literacy and ideas for a curriculum for supporting students to become more email prepared.
We will report next month as to what students feel is lacking email literacy training and how we can support students in that. Now we'd like to introduce our middle school SAG representatives, Knowlton and Frankie.
Okay. Good evening, Dr. Hawker, esteemed board members, and Mrs. Southwick. I'm Knowlton Nelson. This is Frankie Drake. We are part of the middle school SAG. Thank you for allowing us to share what we have been doing with you.
At our last meeting, we got a chance to discuss in length changes happening in the district with Mr. Derrick and Dr. Nelson. We also got to spend our time together reading and discussing a student suggestion about free hygiene products being offered in bathrooms. We discussed it with Dr. Nelson, how our district currently offers these to students and how we can overcome some of those barriers. At our next meeting, we will continue the discussion, and Mrs. Chase has some possible outside grant funding options.
Again, thank you for your time and letting us share what the middle school SAG has done in our April meeting.
Thank you. Now our elementary branch represented by Ezra.
Well, Ezra, let's turn on.
Hello.
There you go.
Hello, Dr. Hawker, Chair Smith, Miss Southwick, and board members. My name is Ezra Swingrover, and at our last meeting, we talked about the SAG bylaws. It wasn't very exciting to read, but was important for us to know what bylaws actually are and how they relate to our groups. We learned what a term limit is and also talked about how SAG members can reapply if they would like to do that. We are also wondering if elementary SAG could have a chair and vice chair on our teams and wondering if middle school could too. We talked about it with Miss Anderton and the possibility of having a leadership team within the group. We are going to brainstorm some other ideas too. In regards to our SAG elementary survey, we have approximately 1,100 responses from elementary students. I know at my own school that our kindergartners even participated in it with their 5th grade buddies helping them. Miss Bales said that if we have at least 10% of responses, then we're doing great. This puts our response rate at about 26%, and we are so proud of that. Our next all SAG meeting which will be this Thursday, May 16th at Coeur d'Alene High School. We are going to go through all the results as soon as we have gathered all the information. We will definitely keep you in the loop. Thank you all for your support for SAG during this school year. We appreciate the time that Dr. Nelson, Miss Morrison, Miss Bales, and Trustee Anderson have all taken to being at our meetings and making us feel heard.
I want to thank all the representatives for speaking tonight, and thank you for allowing us to share our work with you guys. We're happy to take questions from the board at this time.
Terrific, thank you. Trustees, questions? Trustee Anderton?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for all the work that you guys have put into this year. You've all made some steps in the right direction, made some changes for the good in your schools and in your community itself, and I'm really proud of the work that you're doing, so thank you.
I just wanted to say again, well done. I love when you come and you all do a good job. Thank you.
Yep, kudos. I got one question. So do you have term limits set up, and do you want to impose those if you don't have them? Not really? Okay. All right, good. Good to know.
Ezra, I laughed because the original author of those bylaws is actually here this evening. And so, I know, but but he came back. So, yeah. So I remember when those were first set up and how important they were just to give some framework to SAG in general. So, yeah.
I guess one thing would be, I don't think that they need our permission to do so, but for them to develop some leadership groups or teams within the lower, elementary and middle school would be, I'd like to encourage it. I think it would be great to see those roles developed in the elementary and middle school levels. So.
Terrific. Great. Thank you all. Thanks for being here. All right. Good. In our agenda tonight, just want to thank Mr. Hayes for his report from the CEA, and so thank you. And I don't know if there's any further questions or anything this evening. All right. Let me get my sheet. We're going to move into public comment, and I'd like to remind the public that while this is a meeting of the Board of Trustees that takes place in public, it's not a meeting with the public. It's a meeting of the board to conduct district business. The board does allow a public comment period for district-related items, which is limited to no more than 45 minutes, unless a majority of the board votes to extend that time frame. Those wishing to address the board during this public comment period are limited to one comment, not to exceed 3 minutes. At the designated time, I'll call you up to the podium right over here. Please state your name and your city of residence. Should a large number of public wish to speak on the same issue or topic, members of the public are encouraged to select a representative to summarize their position. Please keep in mind that board members will not respond to public comment. If you have handouts for the board, please give them to our clerk, who will disseminate them on our behalf. If I determine that an individual statement is too lengthy, personally directive, abusive, or repetitive, I may terminate that speaker's privilege to address the board. If you have additional comments that you would like to be presented to the board, you can provide them in writing to our clerk. And thank you. All right, this evening we have a number of comments this evening, and so I'd like to welcome Matt Edwards up to the podium, please.
Thank you, board, for allowing public comment. I was made aware that that there has been communication regarding attendance and the huge drop, the hundreds of students drop in attendance, and it's quite alarming to hear that. But what is equally alarming are some of the reasons that were given by the district that personally I found somewhat lacking in expanding upon some of the reasons why parents have chosen to not enroll their children in the Coeur d'Alene School District. And I've been attending these meetings since my oldest child was in kindergarten just a few years ago. And I have, as some of you have been sitting on this board, have seen me here for a number of times over the years. And I have not been here in a while. And that is because I have been collecting information. And I have had administrative employees who work in the district office. I've had teachers, I've had students, and I've had parents who come to me with stories of why they think that there are problems in this district, and they seem to not be getting addressed. And all of these things, like I said, have been mentioned by multiple people over the years, and there seems to be a lack of acknowledgement from those who make decisions in the district office. I have met personally one-on-one with district administrators, with leadership, however you want to call them, without calling them out by personal name. I've been given reasons why X, Y, and Z are happening, and to expect that school closings would happen. So when it was announced that a school was closing, it was a shock to the city, but I knew a year ago that that was going to happen because I had an administrator tell me that that was going to happen. So the lack of transparency, the spin that comes from this administration in the district is heartbreaking. And then when you couple that with the story that broke last week or the last 2 weeks, that has made national news, that has prompted more parents to come out and talk about their child's experience, it's heartbreaking. And I'm not a rich person, I'm not a wealthy person, but I pay for my children to go to a private school. And I don't need to do that. I don't want to do that. Why wouldn't, the school's free for taxpayers. Why wouldn't I want to put my child in public school?
And that's 3 minutes, Mr. Edwards.
So
If you
I
wanna wrap
ask
that up.
you to please listen to the parents that are coming up here with these major concerns for our children. And I look forward, my door is open to anybody that wants to talk to me. It's always open. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy Neal.
I'm going to ask before we start my time that any minors please be excused from the room.
Mr. Neal, this is recorded, so if there's anything you can't say with everyone in the room, then, and so if it's not going to be appropriate for everyone in the room, then I would suggest that you give it to us in writing or in a different format.
I'll just start then. It's my standard that I don't want to burden children with the problems of adults. So, but I'm here as a concerned father and as an advocate for other parents whose children goes to this school. Just so you know, Kootenai Classical Academy has a wait list that's 700 deep the last time I checked. Now, why is that? Because they have the Hillsdale curriculum. They have a curriculum and they have a way of doing things that promotes trust and transparency with the parents that their children go there. It's highly desirable. On the other hand, the outcome of the children that attend the Coeur d'Alene School District is that they are sexualized and groomed into a transgender ideology with disastrous outcomes, life-threatening outcomes. This poor 13-year-old girl has tried to kill herself 8 times. She has carved her face like the Joker. She has cut her body and she has burned her body. This is not a laughing matter. This board has an opportunity to change things. My heart is broken for these kids. Now, you were given a happy, healthy girl that came from a private school that was also come from a homeschool environment that was very happy before she spent less than a year, to my knowledge, in your school system, and she was so twisted up that she has to be in a long-term care facility. This is serious. You know, I as a parent, you know, and as human beings, you guys should be very concerned about this type of outcome. And this, according to the sources that I've seen, it is the counselor of the school that is being named as the primary culprit at Lakes Middle School. You guys said that you celebrate all your staff. You don't have trust with the parents. I've tried talking to you guys about this. It's fallen on deaf ears. Nothing has been done. This school district is not a safe place for children. Now, adolescence and puberty is a very difficult time. as parents, we entrust the school district to take good care of our little ones. They are our future. And their outcomes are very, some of these children's outcomes is very grim. And the school district is breaking families and destroying families.
And Mr. Neal, that's 3 minutes if you want to wrap up.
I sincerely hope that you take this to heart and listen. That's the reason why the enrollment's down. Listen.
Thank you.
Fix it.
Troy McCullum.
Good evening, folks. I'm Troy McCullum, live here in Coeur d'Alene. I'd like to bring up just a couple of things here today. I don't have an agenda per se, but in general, I'd have to agree with everything that's already been said. I want to point out to you that the biggest elephant in the room right now, obviously, is the budget. There are other social issues that go along with that. So let's speak at that first. The reasoning behind what has come to be a $6 million shortfall for next year seems to be a litany of excuses/reasons that the district has known about for 3 years. I know personally that the LRPC, the Long Range Planning Committee, was brought to know all these things, all this data, the demographics that include inflation, crashing birth rates, the propensity for parents to take their kids out of public schools, et cetera, et cetera. Again, you've known about this for 3 years, and here we are now with $6 million in the hole. You were asked repeatedly to start tightening your belts because this was all coming. This is not a surprise. It's not a surprise to anybody sitting in this room. Common sense. Do the kids a favor, do the staff a favor, do everybody a favor, and start cutting back. And the places you can start cutting back is, number one, get rid of all the wokeism, all the DEI, SEL, CRT, ESG, et cetera, is putting you all in a position where you're having to spend every year more and more money that obviously we don't have anymore on things that don't matter. The things that matter is a classical education. That's what the kids want. That's what the kids need. That's what we as a community want and need. We've gone thousands of years being educated as we are growing through our younger years and into our older years all along without the use of cell phones. I think cell phones have no place at school, period, end of discussion.
And
They
that's
don't
3
belong
minutes,
here.
Mr. McCollum, if you want to wrap up, please.
All right. Okay. The other thing is computers should be severely limited. There's no place for computers from K through 6 or later. And what is in the high schools should be seriously rolled back. That's pretty much all I have to say. Again, you always like to say whatever you're doing is for the kids. I'm telling you now, these are the things you need to do for the kids. Thank you very much.
Katie McCullum?
Hi, I'm Katie McCullum, and I'm from CDA. I find the irony of being back at this podium because we've been here so many times about what the school is doing wrong. And there were a lot of people. I see this irony because there are a lot of people who went over the school budget with a fine-tooth comb and found a ton of waste, and were ignored. Many people have been here and said the same thing and were always ignored. We had, under a certain person's watch, we had a teacher, staff, that was having relations with a minor. We've had, at 2 different schools, an 11-year-old and a 12-year-old girl, where the teacher, the counselor, and the principal were helping them with transgender information behind the parent's back. And what the other guy just said was, one of the young girls tried to kill herself 8 times because this mother was asked to sign a piece of paper at school that said that that girl could be called Felix, and the mother said no, and they called the girl Felix anyway. So why have a piece of paper for somebody to sign if you're going to ignore it? The budget has been ridiculously used, and so I'm not a bit confused that you spent $6 million more than you should have. Because if people keep giving you money for free, then why not just keep asking for more? And that's kind of how government works. If they give you a budget and you save money and you're really good about it, then next year they give you less. But if you spend that budget and maybe go a little bit over, but I don't think 6 million is a little bit over, then next year they'll give you a little more money because you need a little bit more. This thinking is wrong, and especially in this community. We don't have the money. The taxpayers don't have the money for the school district to not have a better budget. So what are you going to do? Next year you only have 19 million. This area of the room is the part that makes these decisions, and evidently they make them poorly. And the one thing that I'm also not surprised about is one of the people who made this district have the least amount of trust is sitting behind those desks and has gone to at least 2 different schools to try to get a job and leave the mess for somebody else.
Katie, we're not going
Thank
to
you.
be personally directive. Thank you. You can be personally directive without being personally directive. All right, thank you very much. All right, I'm sorry, Dave Andrews. I'm sorry, I can't. From Athol. Dave from Athol. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name.
My name's Dave Ankrum. I live in Athol. I just got one question, and I just need to know, what other hygiene products are you putting in the boys' bathroom? Other than, is there something I don't know about, should know? I don't know. Anyway, this little sticker says, your children do not belong to the state. That's all I got. Answer that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is it Allie Krosky? Yeah. Great, thank you.
Hi, my name's Allie Koski. I live in Coeur d'Alene. I have for decades. I'm a homeowner, I'm a business owner, and I'm a proud mother of 3 Coeur d'Alene School District kids. I have 3 graduating this year. I have one graduating in 12th grade, graduating in 5th grade, and graduating in kindergarten. They've all been in Coeur d'Alene School District their whole lives, and I couldn't be more grateful. I really appreciate it. I volunteer with the schools. I'm very active. I've been helping with the transition of the Bora kids over to Ramsey. I've been talking with Fernan about that as well. So as I go into what I wanted to talk about tonight, please know that Dr. Hawker, Ms. Southwick, and board members, I wouldn't want your job. I appreciate what you do. I know it's not easy. And I'm very late to this conversation, but as I talk with other parents and other teachers, this is the only thing that I knew to do was just to show up and speak for a minute. In regards to the 4-day, 5-day school week next year and the survey that was sent out, I know that you've had a lot of conversations, but from a parent standpoint, it just seems like it's happening very, very fast. So again, I'm tardy, but this was something that I just wanted to bring to the conversation. And if it's not going to work, it's not going to work. But thank you for listening. I wanted to know why the approach to the attendance of a 4-day week versus a 5-day week is being handled with a one-size-fits-all approach to all age students. As a mom of an elementary school kid, I'm wondering why we can't keep elementary school kids in school for 5 days a week and move the middle and high school kids to 4 days a week. It seems like those numbers might settle themselves out as far as enrollment goes, but with elementary school kids that can't stay home alone due to safety, food insecurity, abuse, neglect, all of those things, it would make sense to keep them in school 5 days a week. I'm also have a degree in early childhood education, and I know that the amount of childcare facilities in this area are already lacking. They would have no way to staff an every other Friday program for the kids that can't go to school. Boys and Girls Club is already at capacity, and I've been on the wait list for School Plus for over 6 months just trying to get after school care. So if there was a way that we could tailor this approach to the different ages of students and those needs, I think it's worth considering. I think the results of the survey are a bit skewed because you asked the same questions of all age students' parents. You said, is childcare a problem for you? Well, you have all these people in 6th grade to 12th grade that said, no, it's not a problem at all. Well, yeah, I'm a mom of that age kid too. He doesn't need childcare, but my little one would light the house on fire if I left him at home all day, right? So the results of that survey weren't tailored to what specific age group we're talking about here. So it's hard to see those results come in my inbox and say, oh, a majority of the families were really grateful they would have an extra Friday with their kids. I don't have that luxury. I work 6 days a week. I work 2 jobs. I've been self-employed for 13 years. I can't do it. So that's my consideration. I understand I have to wrap up.
Yeah.
With the last few moments of my time, I want you to know that from my perspective, low enrollment seems to be from a huge amount of the community that really want a classical or a Christian-based education. And for that, there should be more private schools to suit your children. For my children, I really appreciate the separation of church and state. I am not a Christian, and I am a queer person, and I appreciate that my children are being raised in a school that's not forcing them to learn religions. They have access to technology for their life. So just thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. Austin Smith.
Howdy, everyone. My name is Austin. Most of you already know me. Now that don't go to school here and I'm not employed here, I can come and speak my mind, so I'm very sorry about that. More formally, Dr. Hawker, Chair Smith, trustees, administrators, friends, community members, I'm here today to talk about the valedictorian selection process. I think that there are 2 big things wrong with it, and I think it's gone kind of ignored because there's a lot bigger issues at play here, but I think it's still worth having a discussion about. The first thing is that it only considers GPA. And obviously, as we all know, that is not the whole picture of a student. You know, we talk a lot, or at least we did when I was here, about portrait of a graduate and what should a good graduate look like. And part of that is character, and part of that is what skills you get outside of school. But in the way you guys have it set up, someone with a 4.0 and a 4.0, but that's a tri-student athlete and, you know, president of the debate team, they're both going to tie for valedictorian, and that doesn't feel right to me. It certainly doesn't, especially considering in 2022 there were some character issues with one of our valedictorians. That doesn't feel right to me at all. Secondarily, and this one is more important to me as a mathematician, the formula is flawed. Dual enrollment classes are weighted on a 4.0 scale, but advanced courses are on a 4.5, and AP courses are on a 5.0. So if I'm a sophomore and I have a 4.12 because I was taking English and math advanced, and I want to go on the dual enrollment track, even if I get all A's in all of the hardest classes offered, my GPA will only go down. I don't think it's very fair that someone that takes AP seminar and someone that takes differential equations should be weighted like that. That doesn't make any sense to me. And I spoke with Dr. Nelson about this 2 years ago. with Mrs. Clifford and Mrs. Barrett at the time. They seemed to be generally on board, but of course I got senioritis and it kind of fell off. But I just think it's something worth talking about. For example, Bonners Ferry High School, their 2022 valedictorian I'm good friends with. His name is Javi. And he's a dual credit student. He got a valedictorian and a dual credit student. And just a few days ago, the Idaho State Department of Education Instagram shouted out the Clark Fork High School valedictorian who got his associates from North Idaho College, which is an amazing accomplishment. That is an impressive thing for an 18-year-old to do. And it's not possible at your school. You cannot be valedictorian and have an associate's degree. They are mutually exclusive options. And I don't think that's right. I think we should be encouraging students to do what they think is best. And if that's, I think a valedictorian that knows how to weld is just as valuable as a valedictorian who knows a lot about the Federalist Papers, in my opinion. I know that I'm semi-limited on time. I think this is a discussion you guys should have maybe after the budget's all settled and all that, I understand. But I think it's really worth having. And I think that you guys need to talk with students about it. You need to talk with community members. You should look at other schools in Idaho. Because I'm not the only one that had this complaint when I was in high school. I'm just the only one that's still around. Thank you all. Have a good day. I'm going to go home now.
Thank you, Austin. Bill Green?
Thank you again, you guys, for your time and work and providing this time. My name is Bill Green. I'm in Coeur d'Alene. Dr. Hawker and Ms. Southwick and trustees and all you other good guys back there. So I'm sure if this is appropriate or not, but from some of the comments I heard, but I have some questions I want to address to Dr. Hawker, if that's okay. I know I can't answer them, probably not, but.
And Mr. Green, it really depends. If those are really personally directed to Mr. Hawker, I won't allow them. And so if they're about Mr. Hawker's employment or anything like that, we won't. You can address, in general, questions to us as the board. This is the time to address the board, not Dr. Hawker. So.
Well, I don't suppose I have a whole lot to say then, because I just wanted to ask a couple, which I won't do because it's not appropriate, from things I've read and heard about. So.
Yeah. You're welcome to send Dr. Hawker an email, or I know we talk with you all the time, and so we so appreciate all your efforts and your time here, and so maybe a one-on-one conversation might be best.
Yeah, this would be sort of like that, but because I've had several of those, and I've always appreciated them and the time. But I won't ask my questions.
Thank you.
But thank you guys again.
Thanks for being here, Mr. Green. All right. Thank you. We're going to move then. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your comments this evening. We're going to go ahead and move into Superintendent report.
Thanks, Chair Smith. Let's first just provide an update on next Monday's special meeting that has been called and workshop that has to do with a couple of fee increase hearings. I'd like to invite Mr. Voller up, and he'll just go over some generic information in regards to those two fee increases. The first having to do with the annual review of school meal prices, and then the second would be the facility rental fees. So, Jeff, do you want to just give them an update on that information and when they can expect to kind of get those specific details and preparation for Monday? Thanks.
Yes, certainly. Dr. Hawker, Chair Smith, members of the board. I was asked to just give an update of the upcoming meeting for next Monday, just to give a little preview of what that's going to be. So the first part of that meeting, actually what you're going to see is a culmination of quite a few months of work that I've been working on with several of my teams. So starting with bringing back the Transportation Safety Busing Committee that we started. We'll have a full report on that, and that'll be out in a board packet. All this information will be out in a board packet that we'll release probably at the end of the day on Wednesday for you guys to give you a couple days to review and preview that as we go into that. The fee increase hearing portion of that, just to give you a little preview of that, the first part of that is going to be meal prices. Generally, if we increase meal prices up to or less than 5%, we can just do that on our own. Anytime we go over 5%, we have to do a fee increase hearing. The reason for that is, over the last couple of years, we've seen food costs go up quite a bit. The recommended weighted average from the USDA has gone up as well. In order to meet that weighted average, the recommendation is going to be to increase about 10 to 12% from the current prices. So that exceeds the 5%, so that'll be the first part of the fee increase hearing. Again, those exact prices will be released in the board packet that will be coming to you on this Wednesday at the end of business. The second part of that is going to be the fee increase to consider the facility rental rates. It's been over 10 years since we have changed rates. And over the last 10 years, the cost to maintain facilities and fields have increased significantly. We all know that through inflation. And in March, knowing this was potentially coming, that was something that we were going to be working on, I sent a notice out to all of our renters just to inform them that we would be looking at our rates and that we'd continue to book rentals, but they would have an opportunity once new rates were set that they could adjust any bookings that they have and make any adjustments in fairness to them. So over the past several months, I've been studying other districts, other municipalities to determine rates to bring to you to recommend. We recognize that we are a public entity funded by taxes, but we also know that we should probably charge a reasonable rate to cover our costs for those uses outside of what our schools do. For example, think about the middle school fields that we have. We don't have middle school sports teams that play baseball, play soccer through the schools. So pretty much all of those outdoor fields are rented from outside users. And so we need to take a hard look at that, in terms of what we put into our irrigation, our fertilizing and things, because most of that is going to outside users that we provide those fields for. Additionally, I've been tracking common challenges in rentals, so we get a lot of questions about different things. And so over the last couple of years, I've just been tracking some of those challenges. I've put all of that together into a facility rental guide to try to help answer a lot of those common questions. That'll also be released to you as well as part of this whole packet of what we should do with a recommendation for fee rentals. So indoor rates are fairly reasonable. Right now, we currently rent them at $27 an hour, and the recommendation will be for a small increase for indoor rentals. However, we're very low on our outdoor field rates. So there'll be a fairly significant increase recommendation there. Currently, we charge $3.75 for a 4-hour rental block, so that's 93 cents an hour that we charge for outdoor fields. The recommendations will include a multi-tiered system that will prioritize nonprofit youth sports groups. We feel like that's important to support the kids that are in our community, but we do need to charge a reasonable rate for the use that they have on our facilities. Additionally, it will be presenting a tiered rate system for elementary, middle, and high school fields. So we don't. The elementary schools are mainly playgrounds that have been converted into, maybe you can put a soccer field out there. Many of them don't even have permanent goals. The baseball fields are not as well cared for on the elementaries, but some of them are still rented for little leagues and, some smaller programs that want to use those. Middle schools the fields are in a little bit better shape. And then high schools, the fields are pretty high-end fields that we put a lot of money and effort into maintaining those fields. And so there'll be a different rate for each of those fields. The plan will also propose a model that will increase opportunity for indoor rentals. We currently have a student custodian position where we have students that come in and are helping to support our custodians. But I'd like to propose expanding that system to be kind of a student custodian / gym monitor position so that on a Saturday when our schools are typically closed, that we could have the potential of opening them up where those people that have been trained could come in, unlock, provide supervision. That will be at a cost, but that will be a part of the system that will be presented to you. And I think that's a way that we could increase some opportunities to allow other user groups to come in at various times when our facilities generally are closed, and we would not allow rentals in the past on those. So I think our rental quote will do a better job of reflecting our custodial costs. That's one thing that we haven't done a very good job of in that. And so when somebody requests a rental, that we'll take a look and basically go through a spreadsheet and say, all right, here are the different fees that you have as well as equipment use. Maybe somebody's going to be renting an auditorium. There'll be rates for some of the equipment that they want to use, or track equipment when they rent a track, or just to give a few examples of what some of those are. I've met over the last couple of months. I've been meeting with athletic directors. I've consulted with several members of the community who've involved in different youth sports programs. And because of the increases are greater for outdoor users, we would also suggest a phased-in approach for some of those users to help those programs balance their budgets and kind of figure out how they want to fund these as well. So again, all of this information will be out in a board packet with the recommended rates, the facility rental packet for you to review at the end of the business day on Wednesday. So any questions that you have leading up to that?
Jeff, and you might not have this already, but what's the costs? I guess what percentage of this do we recoup, would you say, off of? I mean, are we recouping 2% of our maintenance through the rental fees? Is it 3%? Is it dramatically higher? What would you gauge that at?
It's, we bring in right now about $70,000 a year, but that's through our Parks and Rec contracts and then the other rentals that we have. Outdoor rentals, I would say, well, part of what I will present to you is a full study on what we feel like it takes to do our fields, from mowing, fertilizing, irrigation, planting and reseeding and things like that. It's about $120,000 a year district-wide at all of the different fields. So, we bring in right now probably, half, and then it's a little bit harder to quantify, electrical for keeping the lights on in a gym and things like that, because those are just, meters that are a little bit harder to gauge, and, the HVAC units running and not running, and, what does that look like? So it's a little bit hard to quantify that, but, I'd say we probably, cover right now through the rentals maybe 2/3, but we're still definitely short, so, yeah.
And then on the meal prices, what is that? Because I understand that we run at a deficit, but what is our forecast on this 10 to 12% increase on what that would?
How much will that increase? Yeah. I'll have the full numbers for you, and I didn't bring the rate sheets with
I'm
me
just
right now
wanting to
that we're
see
gonna
either
propose,
when
but-
at what point in time do we close the gap, or is this, I guess, would we be able to?
Yeah, it's hard to quantify how much food costs are going to continue to go up over the near future. We have to look at the models that the USDA puts out for us, and they have a recommended rate that we go by. And so I think right now lunch is $3.60, I want to say, for an elementary school. So we're going to raise that 10 to 12%. So I'll have the exact fees for you with the full schedule to compare that as well.
Jeff, have we considered for our lunch program looking at outside vendors? I know some of the conferences we go to, they have vendors and the food is actually good. Mm-hmm. So it might be time for us to really consider looking at some other options.
Yeah.
Because school lunches are, in my opinion, they're too expensive now for what you get. So
yeah. I think all options
think
are
it
on
would
the
be
table, right?
wise
I
if
mean, I
we
think we need
could
to take a hard look at that program and
start looking at some other there.
Right.
So
we know we're currently running at a deficit with that program right now, and I think it's time to take a look at, options and figure out what we can do for that.
So all this information will come out to us on Wednesday, and then just for the community listening and for ourselves as well, then we'll move into a fee hearing, and then as well next Monday as part of that discussion. So, all right. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Dr. Hawker, if you want to continue your comments.
Thank you. Just the last item that we had listed there was just an update after our last board meeting on Monday, a week ago, I believe, maybe 2 weeks ago. Every week goes by really fast. There was some conversation in regards to considerations to sell the district office, rent the district office. Just want to report to the board that work is progressing, and we're hopeful to get some information here soon. I know that Mr. Voller has arranged for a an expert in the rental world to walk the facility, I believe, later this week on Friday, and that will also give us some comparables. So we'll bring that back to you just as soon as we can. And that's all of the specific comments under the superintendent section up to the strategic plan update by Dr. Nelson.
All right. Thank you.
Evening, Chair Smith, Superintendent Hawker, and members of the board. Well, it's May. Happy Mother's Day to all of you, except for you, Trustee McAndrew, of course, but we have only 4 weeks to go in the academic calendar. And as you heard in many of our student body reports, we are certainly talking a lot of alphabet soup right now. AP, ISAT, IRI. Exams are in full swing. Tonight, we'd like to show you some of the steps that our leaders, as well as our students, are taking to focus on growth and achievement, and providing a very preliminary peek at some of the results that we're starting to see also. You know that our district strategic plan, when we started asking people in our community, parents, students, community members, what they thought about our district, the first word that always came up was achievement. That word is supported by partnership, collaboration, quality instructional practices, and personalization. As part of that achievement goal that we have, we aim to support all students in performing at or above grade level, eliminate group disparities, engage parents in the community, and create safe learning environments in each of our schools. So, as we have put in front of you before in our continuous improvement plan, and the very first goal that you see on the posters in and around our buildings, we have a 5% growth goal this year. We believe that we can only achieve it through one Coeur d'Alene community. Trust and transparency in the structures in each of those 4 goal areas align for that purpose. We're also taking a look at this in 2 different ways: year-over-year performance and cohort. Cohort means that we watch students as they grow through our programming, and year-over-year means that we measure last year's second graders, for example, with this year's first graders. So we can look at how that performance on first grade assessments changed over time. So I'll give you a little bit of both for you this evening. Also, I know that you have seen this more than a few times, but we've talked a lot in our district about our drive to 2025. This drive to 2025 exists so that we can be recognized as a high-achieving district of choice in Idaho and the Northwest. You've heard several of the accolades that our schools and our students have earned, but at the same time, as of last year, we were still number 2 in terms of student achievement compared to other high districts. We made a strategic investment this year in developing professional learning communities and validating those safe, supportive, and collaborative environments through a process called high reliability schools. We've also focused a lot on intervention. We've talked to you at this meeting several times about how buildings are using intervention practices so that when a student doesn't quite understand a concept yet, that there's a way for us to be able to intervene and to be able to find out what they need. Really, again, this is all about that same idea that when we come together as one Coeur d'Alene community, one professional learning community, student success is our focus. So, how are we doing? The first thing that you need to see is that we have tried to really work hard on developing an academic mindset. Now, for those of you who are watching this, it may be a little tough to read, but let me try to talk to you about what we're doing. Many of our buildings have taken very personalized approaches to be able to make sure that students understand that their results mean something. So at Ramsey Magnet School of Science, under the direction of Principal Crystal Silvers and Austin Hoyer, they thought what would be a great idea is to reach out to each parent in their entire building, kindergarten through 5th grade, and ask the parent to write a note to their child before they start their assessments. These are darling. And again, reminds you that the work that we do for 6.5 hours a day is great, but the other 17.5 hours comes from our community. These are both works of art but they're cherished memories that sets a kid up for success.
I can comment that that occurred in Hayden Meadows in the 4th grade too, so.
Awesome. At Winton Elementary School, under the direction of their principal, Eileen Blau, and assistant principal, Kat Corbeil, they have put up a wall of ISAT affirmations and goals. Now imagine yourself as a 4th grader. Last year was your very first ISAT that you took. Didn't maybe mean a whole lot to you. You didn't really know what to expect. You don't know what this 4-digit number means about your performance. So this year they took specific efforts to give each kid their score report, which shows areas of strength and areas of improvement. Each student created a heart. On the top of the heart, they said what they want to do. In this particular example that you see there, it says, I want to be better than last year. Hey, it's a goal. Then every student gave themselves an affirmation, or they exchanged hearts and somebody wrote an affirmation for them. So as you're in the stairwell at Winton, you see all of these representing all of the students at their school. It's inspiring to see such individual expectations in a visual way. Trustee McAndrew mentioned Hayden Meadows. Another thing that Hayden Meadows has done this year is for each of their upper grade students, 3, 4, 5, under the direction of Lisa Pica and Christina Davenport, they helped create SMART goals for every student. Now, a SMART goal is something specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. And they had, again, the opportunity to take a look at their results and say, what do they think that they could do to improve? Now, this is for English language arts on the ISAT, and they took multiple check-in tests over time. And this particular student was really trying to focus on taking time to read, building a strong vocabulary, and writing a stronger essay as part of their performance task. At Hayden Meadows, they also engage their youngest kids. You'll see some colored bars here. That relates to our MTSS strategies. A red would mean that it's a real big area of need. A yellow means that it's something that they're getting close, and a green means that, hey, they're there. This particular student is looking at all of the skills, that's on the y-axis up and down, comprehension, word analysis, vocabulary and fluency, and how they're performing month to month. So you can see back in September to the month of March, that's a 20-point growth in their scores. And they've gone from a yellow to a green. It's important that students own their work. It's our job to support them in that, but this is another example of how we try to make those skills meaningful for each student. With, of course, the goal to getting all green by the end of the year. Then they also chart their entire class's growth. So you can see in aggregate how you're doing, and that you are part of something even bigger. In this example, you see M and R, that stands for mathematics and reading, and we progress monitor our students 3 times a year, in the fall, the winter, and the spring, the months of September, January, and May. Now, many of our staff will do a few little extra tests here and there, especially if a student is showing some struggle in Tier 2 or Tier 3, but you can see the growth is there. Students help write the bars, and of course, they're working on their mathematical statistics standards by demonstrating data. So it always works out well also. Not unique to just our elementary schools. In our middle schools, they're adapting their bell schedule to make sure that you have enough time to be able to work dedicatedly. In our middle schools, classes are around 50 minutes to an hour, and sometimes students need a little bit more dedicated time. So at Woodland Middle School, Principal Melissa LaPrath and Assistant Principal Tara Nelson have created a new schedule that actually goes backward. You may notice that they start their day with ISAT, with a fresh breakfast, by the way, too. Then they go backward, starting period 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and all the way, ending the day with their first period class. So it shakes things up a little bit, and each of their classes there. You'll also see some of that academic mindset in big posters all across the building, such as the one on the right. Also reminds us that we take our work seriously. Similar at Lake City High School, Luke Sharon, Nathaniel Edmonds, and those who you saw here just recently, they were upset as to how their school was being portrayed based on their performance over the past couple of years. So they said, we need ownership of this. So they worked with their student council and the rest to be able to put additional signs up along the way and put focus on how those juniors would be doing. And by the way, they're doing real well. We'll talk more about that shortly. So even though we're trying to engage our community into one focus on achievement, are these steps really moving the needle? We have some initial results that we'd like to share with you. It is important to know, however, that we have 2 more weeks of state testing on the ISAT and 3 more weeks for the Idaho Reading Indicator. So everything that we're showing to you today has a lot of asterisks on it because it's not official quite yet. Especially as some students do complex calculations on the ISAT or write extensively also for ISAT, it does take us up to 10 days to receive official results from the state once they are calculated. Again, our whole focus is this. We're not happy with being number 2. Our job is to go between the next 2 years from 2 to 1, which maximizes our focus on our vision statement. We want to be recognized as a high-achieving district of choice in Idaho and the Northwest. Ready to see some results? You know I love me some numbers. Okay, so the first measures that we can take a look at are 2 that really we didn't have a whole lot of control over yet because our strategic plan was adopted by the time these students were pretty much graduated or graduating. The first is our cohort graduation rate. Last year's graduating class, 88.6% of them graduated on time. So if you don't remember, the state uses what's called a cohort graduation rate, which looks at all of the students coming in at 9th grade and what percentage of them graduated on time in 4 years. 88.6% of our students graduated on time looking at the class of 2023. It is important to note that that does mirror a national trend where graduation rate did go down with quite a few students leaving in and around the 2020 school year for a variety of educational and personal reasons. Our registrars do their very best to track these students down, and sometimes it's tough, but still above the statewide average. The second measure that we take a look at is like Austin talked about when he was at the podium. What happens when our students graduate and they go someplace? Well, we track our students using a go-on rate through National Student Clearinghouse. We're able to know what university they're choosing to go to, what career technical center they're interested in go to, how long it takes them to get a degree, and what they are studying. And that helps inform us to make sure that we have the right curricula in line and making sure that students are successful once they leave us. Last year, we were top in the state at 68.6% of our students moving on within 3 years. And in the class of 2021, remember this is a 3-year rate, so we have to backtrack it, that actually increased. 70% of our students went on to some sort of post-secondary education. That is a celebration, not quite at our 5% goal, however. Now, let's take a look at something a little bit more recent. In the month of April, we assessed 85% of our students in the Idaho Reading Indicator. Why not 100%? Well, remember, we only require it 3 times a year. But 85% of our assessments were completed, so only about 15% of students were not there. And this is not the official Idaho Reading Indicator, but it's of a very similar measure. That's this month. Year over year, we were 5% up in how our kindergarten students performed, where 75% of them identified all skills at Tier 1. We were up 1% in first grade year over year, 3% in second grade, 3% in third grade, down a little bit in fourth grade, fifth grade up a total of 6%. We are seeing growth based on the collaborative work that we're doing. And we can also take a look at these cohorts. Now, kindergarten to first grade, if you go diagonally from top left to middle, you'll see no growth there, but you did see a 5% growth between first and second grade and some marginal growth in and along the way. When we report official results to you in June with Mrs. Summers, we will have both sets of results for you to take a look at, year over year and growth. But we are very excited. I do have some slides hidden also with current year, And I'm very excited. But we still have only about 28% of our students currently tested in the Idaho Reading Indicator for this year, and only about 30% of ISAT scores in yet. So we didn't bring them to you quite yet, but I'm excited. Finally, let's take a look at how we're doing on our strategic plan. We have added 3 new goals over the last month. We've accomplished 1 new one. We still have 2 overdue tasks, one that we are working on in revising our instructional framework. That is just taking us a little bit long, and a review of all of our web content because we are relaunching our brand new designed website in a few months. Additionally, another 3 tasks will be due in the next 2 months, and we will have additional work where Dr. Heffelbauer from Marzano Resources will be here this next week to guarantee or work with us on designing a guaranteed and viable curricula and turning our assessment results to guide instructional practices. Little tease, but I certainly hope that I might be able to answer any further questions you have.
Thank you, Dr. Nelson. Question?
I actually don't have a question, but I just wanted to say thank you, and I'm happy to see the growth and look forward to seeing more in the next couple of months.
Thank you.
All right.
I guess,
go ahead.
how far did we need to come to be 1? Not that I'm competitive, but what's that margin?
We're cut from the same cloth, Trustee McAndrew.
What's that margin?
It's about 7%.
Okay.
But again, that would also assume that the leading district in the state doesn't grow either.
Yeah, I'm not rooting against them by any means.
I've placed some phone calls down there and told them that we're coming for them, so they know.
Cool.
No, our job is to make sure that we can intensify even what we're seeing. Remember, it's a drive to 2025, and that was reasonable. We knew that a 5% growth goal was achievable for us this year. Every time you get a little bit higher, though, it's a little tougher to be able to get those next sets of percentages. We want to refine our practices and build upon what is working in our system and make sure that we can achieve exactly at that rate.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Nelson. All right. Next, we have our consent agenda items here. I don't know if there's any questions on any of these. I will point out that a couple of things do have, I did just appreciate the renewal premium. There was some movement there, but overall that was a reduction in costs, and so really appreciate that attention to that detail. And there's a few other expenditure pieces that we're just looking at either income or reduction. So is there any questions for anyone? And if not, then is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, consent is approved. We want to take a look then at policy 8200, which is the wellness policy. And is there, this is a new policy, not a new policy, this is a revision of the policy. Dr. Hawker, is there a presentation on that, or?
There certainly can be. Jeff's here. Jeff and Desi helped update that wellness policy. The changes are there listed for you in red. It is an existing policy, so as you can see, Marianne's given you a couple different options to either approve it or approve it and send it out for the month. Either way, there's no rush on this policy, obviously, as we're headed into the summer break, so certainly can choose to do whatever you would like. If you'd like to put it out for some additional comment, that kind of helps advertise the policy as well. So your choice.
Trustees, is there a preference on that or any questions on that policy? It's typical then for us to send it out for public comment.
That's what I'd like to do.
All right. So is there a motion?
I move to accept the revisions to policy 8200 wellness policy and advance it to the public comment period.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, we'll move that policy out to public comment. Let's take a look then at policy 9810, which is creating and maintaining magnet schools. And there was essentially one word change in this policy.
That's correct.
Right? Anything additional? And this has to do with the changes potentially here in the Ramsey zone specifically, although it can affect any of our magnet schools. Is there any questions, trustees?
I guess I do have a question about that in terms of timing. Do we need to approve this policy before we can approve revision to the attendance zones?
Not necessarily before, but yes, in order to ever have a magnet school with a set attendance boundary also, you would need to update this specific policy so that you could have a required attendance zone at a magnet school. So ideally, that's why we brought it here in this order, for the board to consider changing that to that one word to a may, so that those magnet schools might have a attendance boundary, and then we can certainly go from there. And then as boundaries may adjust and change from right now to the start of school, or even in a future years, we will have that ability to still assign a portion of maybe those attendance zones to a specific magnet school.
So I guess my question is, if we're looking at approving revised attendance zones, which I do think we should do, we shouldn't wait on, so that our board kids know what's happening. Can we send this out for a 30-day comment period and still make that change, I guess is my question.
Sir, you can.
Sure.
You bet.
Okay, well then I would move, well, I lost the policy number. I would move to approve the revisions to policy 9810 and advance it to the public comment period.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? All right, then, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that'll move out to public comment. Thank you. We have our second reading then for a new policy, which is policy 9550, which is our cybersecurity and data breach response. There was no public comment. That was a new policy. Any further comment, questions on that? All right, there is a motion there. If someone would.
I move to approve new policy 9550, cybersecurity and data breach response as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Terrific. That policy is approved. Then let's go on to the secondary English language resource adoption and recommendations. There was a few public comments as well, and this has been out to the public. Welcome, Katie Grutman.
Thank you so much, and good evening, Chair Smith, Superintendent Hawker, Clerk Southwick, and honor trustees. I want to just present to you the information that we got from the review process. Typically, our review process has garnered more feedback. There were 5 comments that came back to us from the public. All of them were from teachers in our district. All of them, 4 of them unequivocally supported these resources for approval. 1 supported it generally, but just expressed concern about how she might use one of the resources called Right Reflections. The committee had looked at different resources for supporting English language arts and grammar usage, and that was the resource that they felt might be, or that would be the most helpful to them in moving forward. Just a reminder, I know Dr. Nelson last time presented this information to you. I apologize that I couldn't be with you at that time, but the committee did decide to go with more of what we were calling an a la carte approach, which is rather than one comprehensive curriculum, they wanted to find kind of put together a package of their own, both to be responsive to kids' needs and teachers' needs and helping them meet the essential standards. But also their mantra throughout this was to be fiscally responsible, which is the first time I've had a committee had that particular mantra. They always do try to be fiscally responsible, but this was definitely at the top of their list. I could answer multiple questions for you if you have any, but I would just ask that in consideration of the committee's time and the work that they've put forth, and then also in the consideration of both the digital and in-person review we offered at both the Coeur d'Alene and Hayden Public Libraries, and the comments that were brought back to us, that we would consider moving forward in this adoption.
Can you remind us, fiscally, to adopt this new curriculum will cost us less money next year than continuing with what we have, right?
So they put together a package that's roughly $500,000 in order to renew the resources for what we currently have for one more year. That would be, I'm trying to find the exact amount. I think it was roughly, in contrast, renewing the current secondary ELA print and online resources, which would be StudySync and My Perspective, would cost a combined $215,000 for just one school year.
And this cost is
$500,000 for 6 school years.
Thank you.
It's a one-time cost for the 6 years. Is there
Correct.
any consumables? I didn't see any. I saw the books, but is there consumables in here too?
There are no consumables for what we're proposing. There would be some ongoing maintenance of novel sets. They generally, and that gets factored in each year to a curriculum budget as well. Novels get thrashed after a few years, so we generally try to replace them on a continuing basis, and that's part of what we are looking at also in this package is being able to replace those novel sets. We're relying on current novel sets we already have as part of this. We're not spending money on that, but we are looking at what it would cost to replace as we move forward.
Hopefully we won't have to replace too many. I mean, these are for secondary, so the kids shouldn't be as rough with them.
You would hope not, but over the course of 6 years, having multiple kids, put them in their lockers over time, it can create some wear and tear, yes.
Those backpacks are pretty crunchy these days.
Did you say that the replacement costs were already figured into that number? Or
the replacement costs for this year are figured into that number.
Okay.
In future years, those would be part of future curriculum.
I see.
Budget dollars.
Ms. Grutman, I was really impressed by the attention to just how fiscally responsible this was. I mean, there was a lot of work and you could just track the discussion on this. So my thanks, if we do approve this, especially just to the committee for the time, effort, and energy. I mean, picking our next 6-year ELA curriculum is a big deal. And so I just really appreciate all this work and especially just the work of the committee in putting this forward right now. So
thank you. I'll pass on your thanks to them.
Trustees, is there any further questions or discussions, or if anyone would like to move to adopt?
I'll move to approve the Secondary English Language Arts Resource Adoption Committee's recommendations as presented. That's a mouthful.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you,
Thank-
Ms. Grotman, for all your work on this.
Thank you
It's
so
exciting.
much.
All right. Next up, we're going to take a look at policy 4140, visitors to school. There was one public comment, and this is based on the new parents' rights law, and just clarifying just visitors to schools. So, is there any questions or comments, or anyone want to take a look at that? There's some changes and cleanup. I appreciate the safety piece about verified background checks. That's something I appreciate a lot. I know all of us do in regards to just general safety at each of the schools.
I move to approve policy 4140, visitors to schools as presented.
Right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Anderson seconded. Any further discussion? Or all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Policy 4140 is passed. All right. Next up is the discussion regarding the 2024-2025 proposed school calendar. We've received a number of public comments, and so I know, I'm sure all of us have lots of questions, and so welcome.
Well, good afternoon.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Smith and esteemed board members, Dr. Hawker and Ms. Southway. First of all, on April 29th, you guys, the board has instructed us to come back with a 5-day calendar with a little adjustment for PLC collaboration and training. I've got to start out by saying the calendar committee has been hard at work this year. I mean, we started with just our regular traditional 5-day. Does that help a little bit? There we go. We started with our traditional 5-day calendar, and then we're asked to do a hybrid calendar, and then we're asked to do a 4-day calendar, and then we were asked to do a 160-day calendar, and then back to a traditional calendar. So they've been busy and worked really hard. And the calendar committee is made up of DO administration and staff, principals, teachers, staff at other buildings. So it's a wide variety and a wide swath of people, and they have all worked very hard to come up with the calendar that you are being presented with tonight. And first of all, I want to go through it just a little bit because there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of misunderstanding, some rumors, and maybe some assumptions that we can address and try to get cleared up for everybody on this calendar. First of all, the changes that you will notice are that there is no Monday morning collaboration. With that, students will report to school an hour earlier on Mondays. We get an extra hour of instructional time at that point. We also pick up an extra hour for our classified staff that deals directly with students. Then what you will notice is that there's a Friday early release. That Friday early release is 2 hours early. So students will leave 2 hours before our traditional Friday dismissal. Classified staff will lose 2 hours, classified staff that work with students who need to be there. And then 2 hours of collaboration time district-wide at each building. What this is, it's a net reduction of instructional hours by 1 per week for approximately 30 weeks. Okay, currently we are over in instructional hours by 37 hours at the elementary level, by 70 to 90 hours at the middle school level, 31 hours plus at the 9th through 11th level, and 50 hours more at the senior and high school level. We have some room to bring down the instructional hours to make sure that we are providing the instruction at the rate that we are funded by the state. Classified staff that deal with students, our paras, our classroom assistants, they may experience a 1 hour a week decrease in their current hours. If they were scheduled for 6.5 hours a day to meet students where they are at 32.5 hours per week. That would change to 31.5 hours. No staff, and I repeat, no classified staff that deal with students will lose their benefits. There's a lot of talk about people losing benefits. If you are an individual who is scheduled to work 30 hours with our students and you lose an hour, that would drop you to 29. We will find that hour. Okay, you will not have any classified staff working with students lose benefits. The scheduling here has no impact whatsoever on transportation, custodial, nutrition, or anybody who is a traditional classified building employee. So the idea that people are going to lose benefits is a misnomer. It is untrue. Currently, the district offers part-time positions at 19.75 hours per week or less, and we offer benefited positions from 30 hours a week or more. What that means is we don't have jobs in that 20-hour range by design, okay? And so nobody, even with this change, will drop below 30 hours on their current schedule. Hopefully that clears up that first thing. It should clear up our instructional hours as well, which now allows us to double the amount of time for teachers on a weekly basis to work collaboratively to progress on the PLC work that they are currently doing. The calendar committee, in the short period between April 29th and today, less than 2 weeks, were able to get out a number of surveys to individuals. We had almost 300 responses out of our 600 plus teachers on this calendar. Elementary responded at a rate of about 76% in favor, 24% for Monday or no preference whatsoever. I'm sorry, say again?
What was that for Monday?
76% in favor of early release Friday, 24% that were either Monday or no preference. In middle school, it was 59% favor in Friday, early release, 41% for Monday or no preference. And I will tell you that the no preference was higher than the Mondays at middle school. And then high school, which is a unique beast. Yes, sir. That's okay.
Are these lumped together or are they separate, the Monday or no preference?
I lumped the Monday and no preference together. Yes.
You're telling us that
There was a majority that were no preference, not Mondays, in order to try to be as fair as I could to give everybody. At high school, it's a unique situation. High school has concerns about some attendance issues. They have some concerns about after-school activities. 47% of the high school teachers surveyed were in favor of Friday early release, 53% for Mondays or no different, almost 50-50. Their concerns are real. That the high school students have a little bit more freedom and may choose not to attend, which would be something we would need to watch and keep our eyes on. The activities situation is currently, if we're in school, we're generally not starting activities before the dismissal time anyway. If there's travel, you may miss some of that extra time, but generally speaking, people aren't leaving for their games much before 1 o'clock anyway, and generally speaking, it's going to be a little bit more local. And so I don't think we'd have as big of an issue as maybe some would be concerned about, but it is a real thing that we need to consider. With that reduction of...
Eric, I'm sorry, are they
Yeah, go for it.
concerned? They're concerned that the teachers won't be there for collaboration.
Or their collaboration.
Okay.
That the coaches and staff that
Will
deal...
be away at
Potentially.
meets or games or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
With the reduction of 30 hours of out-of-contract time for the teachers, remember, we're asking our teachers to come in early on Mondays right now. If we take that early requirement away and move their collaboration back within their contract time, we save 30 hours of what we provide PD flex time for, right? PD flex time is provided for those hours that teachers work outside of their contract hours. That would be parent-teacher conferences, open houses, some meetings, the early morning collaboration. So what we have done is by moving that within the contract time now,
we have 4 PD days that are already scheduled on the original calendar, which means that there's no students, there's no classified work going on. But those 4 PD days now, we would use half days to do professional development across basically a quarter, one in October, November, February, and May. And those would be 4 hours of district-wide professional development. And one of the things we want to keep separate here is the collaboration hours and the professional development hours. Collaboration happens at the early release on Fridays. PD happens now in those half days, 4 hours a day, 4 times per year. And that also will help us with our substitute issue by moving more of the PD into those 4 sessions.
So on the days that they have 4 hours for PD, the rest of the time they could work in their classroom. Because really, as a former classroom teacher, we never get enough time to work in our classrooms. So I want to make sure that's built into
That
the
would be an
schedule.
option. We're not taking that away by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay, because there's a lot of PD and collaboration. So,
And
okay.
No,
that
those are only
clarifies.
half days that we're going
But that's
to
only
ask for.
4 days.
Count those. That's 4 days in the school calendar. Remember, there's a PD day up in the week before, and some building stuff that happens the week before school starts. And then there could be some odd PD that pops up during the year, but nothing like what we've experienced. That's why we want to increase the collaboration time, because that's where a lot of the PLC work is going.
And just to clarify, I think I've asked this multiple times, is the collaboration time grade level collaboration or whole school collaboration?
It is basically, it's grade level collaboration.
So it's like grade level
Correct.
planning?
That's my understanding.
Okay,
I think
who knows that? Because I feel like I've asked this multiple times, I'm not sure I ever
Well, I can speak.
get a
Is this on? Yeah.
solid, straight.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Trustee Berkey. But at the secondary level, what we want to do with that 2-hour time frame for the early release is to allow those professional learning teams, those content teams, to work together.
Okay.
And what we are hoping, well, not hoping, we know it can happen, is we want them to be able to continue to further identify, those things, those
So
essential standards.
secondary, I get like content area
Yep.
teachers, and elementary, I'm assuming Patty's going to come tell me, is grade level collaboration. So all of first grade, all of second grade, is that what we're doing on Fridays?
I think so far, the plan is that within the building. And so, we've done cross-district where we gather
that's
all
what I'm
first grade.
specifically asking.
Yeah. We are still working and listening to what everybody needs. We've spent a lot of time this year hearing from elementary, specifically during our CAPS process, to hear, how is it working with our cross-district collaboration, their prep time that Eric is referring to. And we are meeting actually tomorrow through the instructional core team. That's our teaching and learning team, to really have just a really comprehensive look at the whole calendar, the whole year. And also we should take some pause in May to see what was effective this year. What are we hearing from our teachers without question and our building leaders? And then try to map that out. Not in pen, but at least in a nice way, so that then we can take it back to building leaders again and see, is there enough time in there for teachers to do all the things they need to do to be ready, as you know.
Okay, so it's not ironed out
It's not completely ironed out. I don't want to talk like it is when we have some good final end of the year reflections to do, and we really have been listening a lot during the CAPS process to all of those, and that has been one of the biggest expressed needs that the elementary side of things are asking for. So we'll get there, but
Because
we do.
as an elementary teacher, we have hardly any time.
They're running. They are, without question.
Right.
And, but to Trent's point too, we have started such an excellent process through PLCs to empower our teachers to be data-driven and to be looking at what's working and answer those 4 key questions. So we want to build that time in too. So we're getting there.
I appreciate that. Thank
Sure,
you.
thank
This
you.
gives me a little more clarity. Thank you.
So hopefully the biggest takeaways from here is it's the same schedule that we were basically on this year, starting on September 6th, ending on starting on September 3rd, ending on June the 6th. with 2 hours of collaboration per week, 1 hour less instructional time per week, and nobody's going to lose benefits over it at all. And so I can stand for questions.
Did you consider another day besides Friday? Because I have to tell you that Friday concerns me. I think being a shortened day, this will make it that much easier for parents to say, oh, you know, it's a short day, let's just go ahead and take off in the morning. You know, I know our staff is dedicated, but frankly, by Friday, you are pretty wiped out. And the last thing your brain's going to be able to take in is more stuff. So did you consider maybe a Wednesday?
So
or
when we first started these
something like
discussions with the calendar committee, remember the composition of the calendar committee. It's a little bit from everything, right? It's the DO, it's principals, it's admin, it's teachers, it's staff. And they had kicked around Wednesday as a possibility. They'd had it, I believe, historically on a Wednesday previously, and they didn't think it was effective.
During COVID, we did.
And I can only draw from my own experience, but the district I taught in, we had, in later years, maybe the last 10 years, we had a shortened day on Wednesday, and that gave us time to collaborate as grade levels, to do our team planning. We did that every week, and the kids went home, I don't know, maybe 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half early. And it worked really, really well. And I think there was less chance of people just saying, you know, it's a short day on Friday, we're just going to take off. Because, again, I have to come back to finances. And if our goal is to increase attendance, I really worry this isn't going to help us. So I'm really concerned and teetering on whether I can support a Friday.
Trustee Bierke, one of the things that I have to do in my position with this calendar committee, right? Because I'm not in the classroom.
Yeah.
I'm not in a building. I have to rely on the experts on the committee who are in the building and who are doing the work and take the recommendations that they make. And so they have suggested Friday to me. That's why we push that forward. We operate, you know, based on what you guys ask us to do. So I guess, you know, we could take a look at Wednesdays.
Let me add in too, these are all great conversations because all of this has already taken place too. I think there's also a thought out there from the calendar committee and others. Mike knows these numbers, but I'm not even gonna say the numbers because I don't want to get it wrong, but I believe our very worst attended day in the district is Fridays already anyway. Right. So we think that there's an avenue here where if you have a planned late start or early release on a Friday, that could be just part of absorbed into these families that do pull their kids out for half days or all days as they go to the ski hill or they go do things. So we think that could be a good thing. And then again, our focus is on academics, and we also recognize that. You know, we have some activities on Fridays, especially at the secondary level with a lot of different sports and things. And so kids miss academic class time when they're gone on a bus to go on an activity. So by having that 2 hour planning time and that release time, the students would lose less, you know, time with their teacher, and for those conversations that I've had, that has kind of helped stick to this. But I think probably the best connection was the survey results themselves to share the support. Pretty much overwhelmingly at the elementary school and middle school, the staff like the Fridays. The high school, it's probably fair to say it's more 50-50. I think Patty, you had an addition you wanted to share.
Well, I think it's 83% on Fridays. So that was the guiding number and the reason why, at least from the elementary side of things, why they were hoping for that early release on Fridays. It's just part of that phenomenon of families wanting to spend a little more time with their kids, I guess, because there's a lot of kids being pulled out. Not really Fridays is necessarily as much as that afternoon time. So we just thought we'd be dealing with, you know, two needs in one foul swoop. So that's what struck my mind. So I agree with that, at least from the elementary side.
I think Eric threw a bunch of numbers, and I am so visual, I have to see them, so forgive me. I don't even, it's like a big blur. I would have liked to have seen that data, but what is the percentage of staff that actually filled out those surveys?
Like I said, we had almost 300 of our staff.
Okay. And how many
That's
teachers?
45% or so.
Oh, 45, that's the number I'm
Roughly,
looking
yeah.
for. Okay. Okay.
I agree with what you're saying, Trustee Bierke. My little brain thinks that it might work in our favor
Maybe.
but I honestly, we're all just knuckleheads and we're guessing the best we can on this one. And we just hope that it works out. And it feels like the right thing to do is to honor that, but you know, the request. But yeah, if you told me I got to leave early on a Friday all the time, I'd be checked out.
I think
It'd be hard
we're
for me
going to
to
have people that will
be harder to
I
work.
would be
It'd be
checked
harder
out.
to work harder on Friday knowing that that I got 2 hours less, but the goal is that there's going to be a percentage of some, and I guess we've just got to pound the drum on attendance, and
Well, our goal is to make the best decision we can that's going to benefit everyone and not make it worse.
Sure. I think my goal would be that there's a couple of parents out there, even if it's a percentage, that'll say, all right, I normally just take my kid out because we got a volleyball tournament tonight at 6 to be in the Spokane, but instead I can get there because I got a couple hours.
Good, maybe. I mean,
it's an experiment, isn't it?
It is. It could go either way.
I know.
I will say, as a parent of secondary students, I like the Friday early out because my secondary students who are involved in activities do often miss Friday afternoons, riding on buses places. And so as a parent, I like less makeup work for my kids to try to track down to go to a track meet. As a school board member, I have to consider everybody, but I do think from a student perspective, some of our kids will end up with less makeup work because they're on a bus heading somewhere.
I think many of the calendar conversations we've had over the last few years, every year we relook at it. This is we can always do this for a year and then reevaluate. And the calendar committee then can continue to take in what's best and potentially
can we do
make
it at
an
Christmas?
adjustment.
Can we swap it at Christmas?
From a busing perspective, the high schoolers get home first, so younger siblings could potentially then have supervision. I know that came up in a couple of comments that we received. And so, correct, that's kind of the flow of that. So that would potentially help. So,
Do we know of any other districts that do this and how it's worked for them with attendance? Just out of curiosity.
I have not explored other districts at this point.
There are the districts, again, as Eric shared, the poor work from all of the different calendar ideas. There are a lot of districts that do have those almost half-day Fridays every Friday for this exact purpose as well. And I think probably one of the more resonating stories that I've received from our staff is that, and you have too, that Fridays are, by Fridays, many of our professional staff are a little tired, a little exhausted. And I think that it goes without question that we need to recognize that. And I also think that the trade-off is I guess I would rather have them be a little tired while they're doing professional development work with other adults than be tired like those Friday afternoons you are while you also are still trying to educate your class. So I think that's the trade-off. And I see Seth also with an update.
So as a former teacher, As a former teacher myself, I actually taught in a district that had early release Fridays every week. And so it was actually very successful. I was actually just looking for attendance data. But I would say one of the things that I found as a teacher versus Monday mornings where you're coming in, you're trying to get your week started, you're really only half present. And that's what we've heard from most of our staff because they're trying to get ready for their week. By the time you get to Friday, you're ready to be done instructing, and then you can move on to professional development. We almost always built in a little bit of transition time too, so that our staff could wrap up what was going on in their classroom, maybe grab a little bit of food, and then go into PD kind of fueled up. And often there was caffeine as part of that too. So in our district, it was highly successful. I'll see if I can look up some attendance data because that part I don't remember off the top of my head. I did find with families in my classroom that many of them appreciated it. A lot of those families would still send their kids to school on that day, knowing that they could still get out of town a little bit early if they were going somewhere or something like that. So to me, I've worked on this in the past, done a lot of surveys on which day's best. I was part of the Wednesday group. I was part of the Monday group before that. There's really going to be no perfect day. It's whatever is going to work best for the majority of your families and your staff. And I will say when we've done surveys before of our families, Friday afternoon overwhelmingly was the pick. Monday morning second behind that. Wednesday was really not very well liked by families because it's so disruptive to their schedules. So I would just say there's a little bit of information. We've surveyed on this stuff. It was in years past, but we have surveyed a lot, and I can dig up that data for you too if you're interested.
But I do appreciate the anecdotal evidence. I mean, it's good to talk to people who've been through it. In my district, Wednesday was always the day, so, it worked great, but I don't know any difference. I never really cared for the Monday morning because that is, as someone wanting to get your class ready, that would have been hard for me. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, you bet.
I think if there's any committee that usually gets beat up a little bit, it's the calendar committee because it affects all of our daily lives so much. So thank you, and thank you to the committee. So trustees, kind of where are we at then?
I was just wondering what Aaron might think about this.
He's got his arms folded.
I don't know if I'm allowed to even ask, but I just kind of did it. And Allie told me I could.
Yeah. I've heard a lot. Same with you. As the CEA, we don't have a consensus because of, as you've heard, that there's a lot of different opinions. I would second Seth's perspective just from my angle and Dr. Hawker that when I get those kids Friday afternoons playing drums, they're tired. I'm tired. And if it was a matter of, the Monday morning when everyone's fresh versus the Friday afternoon, I see the argument a little more compelling for the Friday. Now, there's a lot of details to be worked out. There's a lot of concerns about staffing, child support that no one really understands yet. There's a lot of concerns about, especially with the those flex days and the PD shift, the clarity that we need from the building leadership about what those hours and what those meetings are. And I trust that the district leadership will work on answering those questions. I don't think that's a decisive thing for the board to worry about. I think you just trust us to duke it or hash it out, I guess. So I guess my very long no comment, but I appreciate Dr. Hawker's opinion about the load of teaching on an afternoon on a Friday. I do like Mr. Derrick's suggestion that came before that we move to a 6-day calendar and then just work through Saturday, which would get us done with the school year quite early. But and the other element of that, not to put him on the spot, but I think we've all noticed that the instructional hours over the past 5 or 6 years have really gotten chipped away. And a lot of us who've been around, we're used to working 5-day weeks. That's sort of the tradition. That's sort of the expectation. And so either any scenario, I don't think our our mental capacity throughout the 5-day week is necessarily something that we're going to be worried about with respect to that. So I trust that you all make the right decision, and thanks for letting me speak to it.
Trustees, is there a motion?
I move to approve the 24-25 calendar as presented.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, the calendar is presented. Mr. Davis, there's been a lot of HR work and moving targets in the last few months, all year. Thank you for your work on this. Anytime you move half a day here, and that it affects people's lives, and so thank you for continually taking care of our staff that way. It's a lot of work, so thank you for that. So, all right, let's move on then to the proposed revised elementary attendance zones. Is there, Dr. Hawker?
Yeah, we presented you the attendance zones at the meeting. I think it was 2 weeks ago now. So you've been able to kind of digest that and just kind of take a peek at that. As you can rightfully imagine, our students and families are eager to know, what the formality of those boundaries, specifically will look like, so that they know what schools to attend. So we're happy to answer any additional questions that anybody might have in regards to these proposed attendance zones. I think they're pretty straightforward, pretty clean. And I don't know if anybody else has anything out there that they want to add to this, but I think we're certainly ready for any questions that you might have, trustees.
It's like playing a game of chess on a Monopoly board. It's so hard. It looks like. I guess the only glaring question that I have, and I've heard it from a few people, is, and I don't imagine you can arrange it any differently, but some folks are going to be at 93% capacity while others are at 79, and I presume you just do the best you can with the squares and rectangles on the map. And
thanks, Trustee McAndrews, and that's exactly right. But our theory, I hope I'm wrong actually in this case, but a theory is that next year we may have a school or two at 90+% capacity. But if our attendance continues to settle for a little bit, the very next year, with a larger 5th grade class going out and a smaller kindergarten class coming in, that school specifically would be below the 90% capacity within that 1 year. So if we notice that there's an uptick in attendance, and that's all great, and as we have shared, that I've shared very publicly, it's my hope that in 5 years or so, 3 years, 2 years, I don't know how long down the road, we're back here having a conversation about changing boundaries again, and perhaps reopening Bora and having to do some shifts so that we can take care of the additional students that we have. But for right now, I think there will be at least one campus that'll be a little over 90%, as we anticipate today. But I do think that it's very possible that within the next year, if we were to lose another few students, that would drop them right down to 90 or slightly below as well. So I think it's good long-term planning that the committee has done as they've put these boundaries together.
I have a question. So I have we already communicated with Bora families based on this attendance, or have we not communicated?
Patty, do you want to come address that specifically? They're aware because they've seen the draft of the attendance zones previously. Okay. I'll let Patty share with that.
Yeah, not a lot of questions coming at us about what is out there. I think that I know that we are sending an email tomorrow with this information coming from their new home schools. And so they'll know exactly their school, they'll know their principal, they're getting a warm welcome and an invitation to an event just for their families to come to the school and meet everybody, and a few other nice things involved to start building that sense of belonging.
Awesome, thank you. And then just as a question, I can't remember what our open enrollment, is it still open?
People can put in for open enrollment without question. We decided in that email not to just put that out there tomorrow morning, but to see how people feel about where they're headed and start that communication process with their new school family. And then anybody can put in that application. We anticipate those questions perhaps, and so office managers were communicated with today to be prepared for that, and we'll take those in and we'll work through them just like we are the others.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Sure.
Terrific. Trustees, there is a motion there, if anyone would like to make it.
I can move to approve the proposed elementary attendance zones as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you for all your work on that and for communicating continually with those Bora students. All right. We have board additional information there. Is there any questions on any of those items for this evening?
Chair Smith, if I can just call out one item of clarification. If you look at item E underneath that section, the notice, the 3545F, just to update the board that on that form, we feel like the word interrogation might be a little harsh. So anywhere that is on that form that has the word interrogation, we're going to change that word specifically to interview and just replace that. That'll be on the form. Just wanted to update you with that.
Terrific. Thanks. All right. So those are things just there for information. We've got future dates then of May 20th. We've got that. There's a workshop as well as the hearing. And so all that information will come out on Wednesday. Let's see here. We've got another hearing then on June 10th because that'll be the budget hearing, I believe. Is that correct?
And the regular meeting.
And regular board meeting, and then June 24th, the adoption and a workshop, as well as all the other upcoming meetings and pieces and stuff and graduations and everything else. So this evening we are going to move into executive session per Idaho Code 74-2061B to consider the evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent or public school student. Is there a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, roll call. Leslie
Yes,
seconded.
sorry. Roll call vote. Trustees?
Yes.
Trustee Bierke? Yes. Trustee Timber? Trustee Anderton? Yes. Trustee Andrew?
Terrific. Thank you, everyone. We are going to take a 5-minute recess, clear the room, close the door, and we'll move into executive session. Thank you.